KLIF News Time is now 7:40. The nation's largest pro-military organization says it is time for men and women on bases, military bases that is, to be able to defend themselves.
Danny Gonzalez is with Move America Forward. He is pushing for arms for military personnel, and he joins us live now. Good morning, Mr. Gonzalez.
Good morning, Amy and Dave. Thank you for having me on the show. Appreciate this opportunity.
I'm always a little bit surprised when I learn of military facilities where the personnel are not armed, as they might be under standard conditions and places.
Yeah, we actually became aware of this back in 2008 when we noticed a string of vandalism and attacks on military organizations across the country. At that time, none of those incidences had occurred in some of the more tragic examples of violence as the one that we saw yesterday in Chattanooga, and previously to that, like the Fort Hood massacre or the Army soldier who was killed in Little Rock, Arkansas that same year. So now that we're seeing the deadly effects of this policy, it's becoming more and more urgent to take action on this.
What needs to happen in order for military personnel to be able to carry weapons on reserve centers?
Well, it is subject to local laws, but as far as we know, there's no actual law against changing the policy. President Obama could issue an executive order today changing the policy, and there should be no laws in place that would prevent that from taking effect. Just like any business owner, there in Dallas, someone who owns a business, a store or something like that, has the right to carry a firearm while they're at their business to defend themselves and their property. Our troops should have that same right legally. It's just a policy change. That they need to change the policy to have the military administration enact the policies to tell the troops that they can have their weapons.
Now, I'm guessing that the federal armed services would not be limited or subjected to state laws. Is that correct?
I don't know if that is correct or not. I'm sure that on military bases, it might be different than a military recruiting center that's open to the public. But we definitely believe that if there is some sort of legal limitation there, that we should make an exemption for military recruiting centers, because they really are an extension of a base, pretty much, if you kind of think about it. And even though they're receiving traffic from the public, making those recruiting centers a gun-free zone is not enhancing the security of those locations. And especially someone like our troops, if a regular citizen like you or I has the right to carry a gun to protect ourselves and our business, for God's sake, our troops definitely should be able to.
Is there a concern that someone on a base, maybe suffering from PTSD, may have a weapon and go crazy and start shooting?
Well, that's always a concern. But like, for example, in 2009, when an Islamic terrorist, Nidal Hassan, who was serving in the Army at the time and had access to get on the base, decided to attack his fellow troops and killed 13 other troops and injured 30 more. He had access to the base, so it's kind of analogous to the situation that you're bringing up. And there's not really anything that we can prevent somebody who has access to these secure locations and also has access to a gun from bringing it in there. That little sign of gun-free zone and doesn't stop them from bringing the weapon in there and using it against other people. All it's doing is ensuring that everyone else who's at that location doesn't have a weapon to protect themselves when a situation like that arises.
All right, Mr. Gonzalez, thank you very much for your time this morning. We appreciate it. That's Danny Gonzalez with Move America Forward, pushing for arms for military personnel.